Normally, I would split a tree like this by element, but for the Amazon it makes more sense to me to split the bow skills by functionality, since the base level skills behave in a very specific way, while the area of effect skills behave in another. So today, we'll look at the first of those, Magic Arrow, Cold Arrow, and Fire Arrow, and since it's also a single target, albeit a lot more basic, Ice Arrow. The important thing to remember with these skills is that the first three mentions, Magic, Cold, and Fire, are not just damage adding skills, but actually damage modifying skills. They take your damage roll after stuff like crits and such, but before resistances, and convert a % of it to their specific damage type. So all three of these are amazing for dealing with physical immunes as a normally non-elemental boson. And while before 2.4, they had a bug of not adding attack rating, those have been fixed and resurrected. As far as the individual arrows go, Magic Arrow converts your physical damage to pure magic damage, and has the special perk of not consuming any ammunition for your bows or crossbows, making it an exceptionally handy skill to have for farming since it lets you bypass not only physical immunes, but also long streaks of not finding the right bloody ammo whenever you don't want to wander back to town. And an odd little tidbit for this skill that is added damage is actually added before your % boost, so it will add more than you think, but admittedly it's still not going to be a ton. Another perk of Magic Arrow that is exclusive to it is the fact that it has a decreasing mana cost per level, becoming free at level 13, making it even better against physical immunes, since you no longer need to worry about mana cost being a thing when facing an enemy you flat out cannot leech from. Now, this skill has to pass hit checks and such, but provided you have enough attack rating, that will be easy enough to do. And yes, this is the skill that is auto-cast on items with magic arrows. Weapons like Wizendraw, Widowmaker, etc., with Witchwild being the highest level version of it at casting level 20, and Mavina's being the lowest at level 1. Next up, we move to the right and take a look at Fire Arrow, which sadly consumes ammo, but still follows the same damage conversion rules, albeit this time going to fire rather than magic, and still does the conversion after all the damage % effects, critical strike, etc. do their work, but before resistances, of course. Now, two important things to take into account are, if you reach 100% conversion, this skill becomes unblockable, but it still needs to pass the attack rating formula. So basically, you can still miss the shot, but if you hit it, it will ignore blocking. Though, as said, this only happens at 100% conversion, which is exceptionally high. The other important thing to remember with this skill is that items such as Rainbow Facets that give +% fire damage don't actually function on the converted damage, so sadly you cannot get double multipliers going on there, but it does apply to the skill's base fire damage, which can do some damage considering it's applied after synergies, but you're not going to be able to stack too much of it on a bow using character. The third skill that functions this way is all the way over on the left. It's Cold Arrow. Like its fire counterpart, it still consumes arrows. It still has all the attack rating shenanigans that vary depending on the version you play, and it still does the conversion after damage %, crit, etc., as well as the cannot be blocked stuff at 100% conversion. Heck, it even does the nonsense with % elemental damage effects only applying to the skill damage, not the converted damage, albeit this time with cold damage instead of fire or magic. And being cold damage, it gets to have the lovely effect of chill on enemies, which is super handy, especially against physical immunes since slowing them down can be pretty important. As far as the cold length, Cold Arrow's length is added to your standard cold duration items, meaning you can stack up a somewhat decent amount of chill. Sadly, neither of these can be found natively on any items as a type of arrow they could natively fire, or they would be a lot more fun in terms of combos with other classes, but I do understand why they didn't do this. And lastly in today's video, and this is mostly because I could not decide which video to squeeze it into, because it just doesn't really belong anywhere, is Ice Arrow. Unlike the previous three, this does not do any damage conversion. It does rather mediocre cold damage on its own though, but I guess since it keeps more physical, it can be okay for leeching back its slowly escalating mana cost. The main use of this skill though is freezing single targets, and a stopgap until freezing arrow. Instead of chilling, it does actually freeze the target in place, and cold length does help this duration as well, so you can lock things down for a decent amount of time with the right setup, but it just doesn't do enough on its own known to really justify regular use on pretty much any build, since you're better off with a good bow or cold arrow, or going all in on freezing arrow instead. Overall, the single target elemental bow skills have some fun quirks, and I'm sure there will be a few people that love ice arrow since it can be the Amazon counterpart of the sorceress ice bolt. I just almost never use it personally, so which of the three major branches of the bow skill tree do you prefer? The frosty left, the magic and physical middle row, or the burninators on the right? Mention it down below, and as always, keep gaming, have fun, and peace out. This has been Alzorath. Bye.